Welcome back to our reading of Alignment. We are now on Chapter 3, A Duel with Darkness. Rise and shine, sleep mode has ended. Geo got up in response to the message, and he noticed that Droider was still asleep. At first, Geo did not know what to do with his time, but he soon remembered the picture that Droider gave to him. He was very happy about the picture, so he started to draw a picture of Droider. When the picture was finished, it was very beautiful. Geo had no idea that he was capable of making a picture that looked even more amazing than what it was a picture of. As soon as Droider woke up, Geo gave her the picture, and she was very thankful. She almost cried when she looked at it because it was the best picture she had ever seen.
Oh, Geo,
Droider said.
this is so wonderful. Hey, would you like to take a walk with me? I have something to show you.
Geo was overjoyed about the offer, so he went on a walk with Droider. They walked for a long way, and they talked to each other about all sorts of things. What was odd was that even after hours of talking, the subject of Dreekale and the zombies never came up. After a while of walking, Droider turned to Geo and said,
Geo, you're going to love this. It's something that you haven't seen in a long time.
As Droider finished her sentence, the sun came up over the horizon. It was a beautiful sight, but Geo was confused. He remembered that the world had been covered in darkness ever since Dreekale showed up. Rise and shine, sleep mode has ended. Geo woke up after seeing the message, but he was very confused. He remembered waking up before, but he didn't remember going back to sleep. As he looked up, he saw a completely black sky with no stars or moon, and when he looked to his side, he saw Droider sleeping. Droider soon woke up and said,
Hi, Geo. How are you?
Geo looked up at the sky again, so Droider said,
Don't worry, Geo. We'll defeat Dreekale very soon, and then the sun will come out again. You'd love to see the sun, wouldn't you?
Geo nodded, and then Jupiter came by and said, Hey, you guys finally woke up. I've been waiting. Oh, and Droider, did you notice how I swaggered over here? Droider sighed and said with a frustrated tone,
Yes, Jupiter. It was awesome.
I've been working hard on it, Jupiter said. Anyway, are you ready to go look for Dreekale again? Droider stood up and replied,
Might as well go while our batteries are full.
She then helped Geo up, and the ninjas were on their way. After a while of searching, they found Dreekale's unique heat signature in a humongous fortress. This structure had many large sections, and Dreekale was standing in the center of it. Unlike most of Dreekale's other fortresses, this one had many covered corridors that were being patrolled by strong guards.
This is going to be a difficult place to infiltrate.
Droider said.
No windows to sneak into, no open areas to drop into, no way to get in without making some noise.
Suddenly, Jupiter slammed his hammer onto the ground and replied, Well then, maybe we should make some noise. We should just run up to the nearest wall, knock it down, and then send everything that gets in our way straight back to the dark depths of the netherworld. Dreekale thinks we're weak because we've been using cowardly tactics up until now. But no more. No longer are we going to use stealth. Not for this mission. We're going head-to-head with Dreekale's army, and once we've cleared out all the grunts, we're going to show the main man himself what we're made of.
Jupiter, it's great that you're brave enough to take on an army of zombies all by yourself, but we really need to have some sort of strategy. There are a lot of guards in that fortress, and each one of them is almost as big as you are.
Droider then thought for a moment and continued,
But one aspect of your plan might work. We can't get in without making some noise, so here's what we'll do.
Droider then came up with a plan, and set it into action with the help of her teammates. Since there were far too many bodyguards around Dreekale himself, Droider decided to create a wound in the fortress and let the guards bleed out of it. The wound was caused by Jupiter knocking down a wall at the edge of the fortress. Once that was done, several guards rushed toward the trespassing robot, but Jupiter was able to hold them off quite well. Every guard from every sector was headed for Jupiter's position, so as soon as most of the guards were in the sector where Jupiter was, Geo set a remote mine on a rooftop behind the swarm of guards. When the mine exploded, Geo and Droider dropped through the new hole in the roof. The guards who were headed for Jupiter noticed the explosion, so many of them turned around and headed for Geo and Droida. This lightened the load on Jupiter, so he had an easier time smashing and blowing up all of the guards around him. Meanwhile, Geo and Droida were taking care of the guards that were after them. These undead forces were powerful, but Geo was able to defeat them easily with his katana and plasma gun. Droida was also helping with some fierce karate moves and the ability to turn her fingers into machine guns, so guards were dying everywhere. As the group of guards between Geo and company thinned out, Jupiter came running toward Geo and Droida, whilst breaking every undead creature that got in his way. Once he got close to his comrades, he slammed his hammer onto the ground so hard that he caused an earthquake. The last few pursuing guards were startled by the earthquake, so Jupiter quickly turned around, acquired the targets, and then launched a barrage of homing missiles to take out the rest of the enemies. Since the guards were defeated, the ninjas headed to Dreekale's room. Surprisingly enough, Dreekale was waiting for them. "If you had gotten here much sooner, then I would have pulled a disappearing act, but since you took so long to defeat my guards, then that means that you're weak. I know I can beat you if you had so much trouble with my underlings." Suddenly, Jupiter yelled, "Yeah, right! It's 3 butt-kicking robots against 1 rotting corpse. You think you can stop us when the odds are against you?" After that, Dreekale fired a volley of magic blasts after the magic orb on his right hand. Jupiter and Droida got out of the way, but Geo disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Before the smoke could clear, several images of Geo jumped out of the cloud and headed for Dreekale. Dreekale reacted to this attack by summoning a giant tsunami to wipe out every image of Geo. Dreekale thought he had hit the real Geo with his tsunami, but the real Geo was hiding against the wall behind Dreekale while holding up a sheet that perfectly blended in with the wall. After the tsunami attack, Geo dropped the sheet, ran up behind Dreekale and sliced his head off. Droida shouted to Dreekale,
"It looks like you picked wrong, Dreekale."
Suddenly, Dreekale came up out of the ground behind Droida and said, "It looks like you picked wrong too." Dreekale was about to attack, but Geo quickly disappeared behind his sheet, threw the sheet above Dreekale, and then reappeared behind the sheet to perform an attack on the evil sorcerer. However, Dreekale disappeared into the ground before Geo could attack him. After that, several copies of Dreekale came out of the ground around the room. "Which one of us is the true master of magic?" Dreekale said, "and which ones are just rotting corpses disguised as the real thing?" Droida activated her thermal vision and looked around the room. Almost immediately, she noticed that one of the Dreekale copies had a magic orb that was glowing bright with power, while the rest of the copies had artificial orbs. As soon as she discovered this, she threw an explosive shuriken at the real Dreekale. When it hit, Dreekale was very surprised, as the projectile exploded and nearly blew his body to pieces. Even though Dreekale was badly damaged, he was still alive, so Jupiter ran toward the necromancer, ready to ensure the villain's death. However, as soon as Jupiter got close to Dreekale, a blade of energy jutted out of Dreekale's magic orb. The blade went through Jupiter's chest, and the necromancer pulled the blade to the side to make a nice clean gash in Jupiter's body. Just after Dreekale finished the attack, Geo ran up to him while opening fire with his plasma gun. Dreekale was about to attack Geo with his energy sword, but Geo disappeared in a cloud of smoke and reappeared above Dreekale with a charged beam ready. Just as Geo was about to unleash the charged beam, Dreekale aimed upward and launched a powerful blast of magic at the robot. Geo was badly damaged by the magic blast, so he fell to the ground and was unable to move. Just after that, Droida threw several explosive shuriken at Dreekale, but the undead sorcerer simply disappeared and then reappeared in a different spot. As soon as Dreekale reappeared, Droida took aim and opened fire with her machine guns, but Dreekale responded by unleashing a volley of magic blasts. Droida disappeared in a cloud of smoke to avoid the magic blasts, and then 2 puffs of smoke appeared on both sides of Dreekale. A bunch of explosive shuriken came out of each cloud, but Dreekale simply teleported out of the way of the shuriken and fired magic beams out of both of his hands and into the clouds of smoke. However, Droida was not in either cloud. She dropped a camouflage sheet and then ran up behind Dreekale to kick him. The kick knocked Dreekale into the air, so Droida turned all of her fingers into machine guns and got ready to open fire. However, a huge stone came up underneath Droida and knocked her into the air. This earth attack was performed by Dreekale, and once he landed on his feet, he followed up with a lightning bolt that shocked Droida and rendered her unconscious, thus causing her to unsafely plummet to the ground. However, before she could reach the ground, Geo ran by and caught her. Dreekale tried to hit Geo with some more magic blasts, but Geo ran too fast to be hit. After dodging the blasts, Geo ran to Jupiter, and all of the robots escaped the fortress. Dreekale was determined to get rid of the robots, so he chased after them, but Jupiter was feeling just well enough to fire one last group of homing missiles. All of the homing missiles hit Dreekale, so the ninjas were able to get away from him. However, the homing missiles only rendered Dreekale unconscious. The Necromancer's reign was not over yet. That was the end of Chapter 3. Come back next time for Chapter 4, Treasure Trashed.